from utter despair of an emotional wreck from losing one waifu after another, while all the villains are pointing to the most vile NTR of the viewers, that is another man stealing your girl for his greed and lust. The pathway to hell's emotions can only take you so far down a pit until you find hope, allies, and everything that the MC Natsuki Subaru has learned in the past 2 seasons that will eventually catch up to his current character development, giving him the resolve that he needs. While a catastrophe of emotions take shape in the dark abyss in the previous few episodes, it isn't without Subaru learning to trust his allies and not having to bear the burden himself. Like when Subaru slept on Emilia's lap the very first time, like during the White Whale arc, and like when Otto saved his ass for the very first time. Most importantly, after the events of season 2, Subaru and Emilia's bond has never been greater, along with every follower that believes in them, and their vision starts to take shape to overcome the insanity that is wrath, greed, the gluttonies, and lust, and whatever witch cultists are still lurking out there. Episode 5 proved to be the lowest of the low point despair for Subaru and the others, but that isn't anything new for Subaru in ReZero. Season 3, Episode 6, Kishi no Joken, represents the episode that builds the resolve within the MC Natsuki Subaru. In the last video, I talked a lot about Emilia's purity, innocence, and naivete being her double-edged sword, as it makes her look like a weak candidate to be the leader and ruler of Ala Lugunica. It's also part of the NTR/kidnapping plot arc that men instinctively do not like. It's like when women are taken as spoils of war that's been built within us throughout the history of humanity. However, the guiding light for Emilia is that trust within her allies, and most importantly, the trust in her knight, MC Natsuki Subaru. At this point in the story, Subaru and Emilia are a legitimate faction that is run like a well-oiled machine, like every other faction seemed to be like before in season 1 during the royal selection. Before, we had all the manipulation of Roswell in the background and Subaru not officially becoming Emilia's knight. Now, this is the most synergy of the Emilia faction, with the conclusion of episode 5 of the lowest of the low feelings of everything that seemed to be going terribly wrong is going terribly wrong. Except, finally, there is a glimmer of hope. That is what episode 6 is all about, turning that page to feel that there are answers to the despair. So the episode starts off with wife number 184 and future wife number 79 continually having a conversation over the disasters that is Priscilla, including what number 79 remembered last fighting Wrath. Wife number 184 informs number 79 that their husband, Regulus, is a Sin Archbishop as well, and that Lust was actually referring to herself as the one being, as that silver-haired girl that's going to be wed to Greed. Now, we are informed of the leverage that the witch's cult have over number 79, and that is, if number 79 doesn't wed Greed and follow his directions, the entire city of Priscilla will meet the natural disaster that is a flood and probably lots of murdering. Number 79 is still unclothed, but her purity still intact, with wife number 184 insisting yet once again to get clothed in her husband's belongings as a sign of his ownership. Like in the previous episode, number 79 looks outside the window to utter her knight's name,
Subaru.
With that name uttered in happiness and delight, Emilia has no doubt that the man she locked lips with and pinky sweared with will find a way. That right there is the first sense of Emilia showing that loyalty, that belief, that strength in what a ruler should be. Sure, before I might have complained at how the story sets up the weakness, the purity of Emilia being so damn naive. But we still have to understand that she did get knocked out. But once she realizes that the Sin Archbishops are all taking over the city and Regulus is one of them, at least she's still constantly thinking about Subaru and how they're probably doing everything they can to save her. And so now this is the moment for Emilia to start turning that page of looking like that damsel in distress to someone that is finally, at least mentally right now, taking the steps to understand and start to make the right moves to save herself and save the entire city of Pristella. So that right there is the glimmer of hope within the beginning of the episode, where the previous episodes where it started with Emilia and ended with her, it felt dire, despair, like there's nothing that anyone can do, at least right now. So this is that episode. We start to get that relief in our hearts, like, wow, the bond. This is where it starts to get tested in a positive way. And the reactions are in a way that we feel really good about. Meanwhile, Emilia's night is in a terrifying nightmare, being dumped in the flood of Pristella, only to wake up to kiss my feet, Priscilla. From once not being a person that we should be that happy of seeing, but considering lust just defiled. And Subaru, this is a welcome addition back into the story. It looks like Priscilla has been healing Subaru this entire time, and your boy's leg is back intact. And look who it is. It's the girl of Kiritaka's dreams, and one that dropped #1 hits on the spot to heal your soul after taking one of the biggest L's of your life. Priscilla updates Subaru about what happened after Lust's announcement that the Great Watergate was used to flood the city. Subaru remembers, oh my god, Subaru's leg is back and bandaged up, but it's the blood of Capella's, which Priscilla took delight in cutting his leg back open to show his regenerative ability. Priscilla continues to show how well informed she is as she mentions that the dragon blood is one of the 3 treasures the holy dragon bestowed upon the Lagunica royal family, just like Wilhelm mentioned a couple episodes ago, with Capella being linked to the royal family and how her entire name was the same as one of the members. Liliana dropped some vocals with her swift sway of some strings to tell Priscilla and Subaru about that song, or that verse, being one that represented the royal family's friendship with the holy dragon Volcanica. It looks like at the beginning of this episode we're getting more and more of that ReZero lore. Priscilla walks around Subaru to hit Subaru with some sadism as she pokes Subaru's neck with their pointy fan to show that Subaru doesn't actually heal anywhere else besides where Capella dripped their blood, in his leg. Priscilla and Liliana are unaware of what's the deal with Krush, Garfield, and the others, but updates Subaru about Lust's new demands of wanting to gain the Tome of Wisdom, the Artificial Spirit, and the NTR. Subaru reacts like how we all have been reacting. Ain't no way I'm getting fucked. He shows Priscilla his resolve, and Priscilla shows Subaru the ground to protect them. A crap ton of Maju appear out of nowhere to inflict some pain on someone that loves swimming in it. This becomes like one of those RPG tutorial situations that explains that this beast started to spawn after the flood occurred. Who needs a strong man when Priscilla already has a mighty strong sword? As Priscilla whips out the biggest and nastiest looking sword ever, called the Yang Sword, in a burning flame to give these beasts closure. Just as we all suspected, just as the story been teasing us the very moment Priscilla was introduced, when she was facing those ruffians, that Priscilla is indeed a total monster herself. Priscilla takes Liliana and Subaru to one of the shelters to see what has happened to the masses, like the one time where Sirius brainwashed an entire audience, including Subaru. It looks like her effects are still continuing, causing the masses to, be wrath, represented by those red eyes. Priscilla continues to whip Subaru into shape as Wrath's influence started to take him over, but Liliana got the voice of an angel and the creativity to drop another banger right on the spot to heal the NPCs, Subaru, and everyone around from raging out of control. This is where the balance between Priscilla's sadism and her kindness gets reflected once again. Priscilla wants to play ignorant with bringing Liliana to help remove Wrath's authority over the NPCs by saying she is just trying to find Schultz. But deep down, this is another example of Priscilla's bright spots of being a legitimate candidate as the ruler of Lugunica, as she's clearly displayed not only how strong she is individually, but she has the power to help lead the masses. Subaru looks to regroup with this party from earlier to return back to the Muse company and leaves behind Priscilla and Liliana. Now, back to the worst. It's the NTR. Emilia is in Greed's clothing and is always putting his hands on her, judging her attitude. Regulus has 291 wives in total, preparing the venue for number 79 and Regulus's wedding. Number 79 is playing along and apologizing to Regulus for her behavior and asks to get some more rest, with Regulus still being very gentlemanly. Dude has all of his wives be like worker slaves and work to literal death, or by him, as he only has 53 that is currently alive, with 79 being the 54th wife. Once she's wedded to Regulus, Regulus is a goddamn madman that needs a Pandora smash, but it looks like Greed is the only one smashing these days. Regulus knows when a woman is being deceiving, or does he? But he knows when one is being totally useless. That is what number 184 is. So number 184 not noticing that his future wife of number 79 being exhausted and not tending to her is not needed no more. So then Regulus tells his wife and future wife, "My bad," and takes his leave, while number 184 thanks number 79 for saving her. But that's totally it. Emilia is totally confused and still has her own dignity, but number 184 tells her this is a reality of some marriages. You don't really have to love each other. You just gotta listen to the man. Once again, she tells number 79, if he tells you to spread him, you spread him. This continues to show Emilia's ignorance in the reality of what represents a toxic, trauma-bonded relationship that will likely lead her to try to find a way to save all of Regulus's wives. At the same time, Regulus is in total control and still has the leverage over Emilia, with the city of Pristella held as essentially the hostage. But we're lucky to still be seeing that he is playing nice by not abusing her just yet. And after a scene where Greed was this close to NTRing us, Subaru is once again showing his beta side and runs away from some of the Maju and pulls the "I'm tripping over something" trope as he's being chased, just as Subaru was about to get eaten alive by some beast. You should naturally be farming that someone like Priscilla easily disposed of. That is when a real knight appears. The rival Yuli arrives to save his day. Julius informs Subaru of the attack on the Muse company and that they have relocated back to the government building where everyone is regrouping. Felix gives a big smack to Wilhelm for what has happened to Krush. It looks like Krush is being tormented by that dragon blood from within, but at the very least, she's in the Allies' possession, where Felix can hopefully keep that dragon blood somewhat under control, and maybe Krush can outlast the agony of whatever that dragon blood does to a human being. So finally, we are starting to get a lot of these characters coming back together, regrouping, and likely starting to set up for their next moves. So this episode is continually setting us up for that relief that the previous episodes were giving us, that despair-like feeling and that tormenting feeling that Lust just gave us, the most terrifying feeling ever, and literally wouldn't give Subaru that death that would easily unlock his Shini Midori ability again, and we could do all this over again. But literally after like episode 2, it looks like that ability won't be of any use, at least anytime soon as it feels right now. It moves back to Emilia doing the "yo, I'm just tricking my parents that I'm asleep" trick. under some kind of spell of protection. Emilia makes a move outside her room to deduce what exactly is going on as she sees that the witches have overtaken all 4 of the towers of Pristella, which is preventing her allies from making a move just yet. The temple where she is supposed to get married is in the 3rd district. She is hoping to get intel with which archbishop is in which tower to help relay that to Subaru and the others. And just as she is walking outside the building, she accidentally walks outside of Regulus's room. And this is where some important plot elements start to get revealed. It looks like Regulus is speaking with Capella over the Mythia, and that just so happens to inform us that the building straight across is where Capella is, as he berates her with opening the water gate to make a flood, ruining his wedding preparations. However, it looks like Capella isn't the one that actually released the flood, making it a mystery as to who could have caused a disaster within the city and closed it. It also questions at what length are these Saint Archbishops really working together. One of Regulus's wives appeared to inform him of the preparations at the temple, and this becomes another perfect opportunity to get a hold of that Mythia, as Emilia has gotten a hold of some valuable information from outside his window. Subaru starts speaking with Anastasia about Beatrice being that artificial spirit that Capella and the other Saint Archbishops are after. Then Subaru informs her and Julius about the Tome of Wisdom, in which is the prototype of the Gospels that is in the witch's cult. This is a callback to season 2 when the witch agreed, and how Roswell and Beatrice each had one of those Tome of Wisdoms. They all decide to not give in to the cult's demands, as the 2 Tomes of Wisdoms were burned to ashes anyways, especially the NTR. Anastasia has been given the responsibility of helping protect and save Pristella, as Kiritaka went missing in the previous episode, causing a lot of the unknown of what that can really mean for the story. Yes, I love this setup right here because Kiritaka's character is set up to be kind of fishy, but being that he is supposed to be the only one left that knows about the remains of the witches, it is starting to lead to certain elements all converging to a very important plot point. Just as Emilia and Regulus's wedding all is converging to a important plot point as well, as obviously Subaru and the others are not just gonna let this happen. And you have Otto and Reinhard somewhere waiting in the wings, ready to save the day. Anastasia and Julius talks about the unrest at the shelters being caused by Sirius, and this is where Subaru finds his knight's resolve to be greedy as a knight and to save everyone, just like the resolve he found in season 2, where no sacrifices will ever be accepted. Even though people died at the Battle of the White Whale, these were people that were all prepared for it, as that is the life that they chose. However, the people of the city have their own resolve as well, that they want to protect their own city just as much. Subaru and the others will defeat Sirius and make her stop causing civil unrest. He will defeat Capella and make her transform everyone back to normal. He will defeat the gluttonies and make them return Rem's memory and Crucius, and he will absolutely obliterate that pervert that's trying to NTR the protagonist. This is Subaru's will of the happy ending we all want, and asks if Julius feels the same as a fellow knight as well. And then we get an end to the episode until they hit us with another ending credits scene. Emilia sneaks into Regulus's room to snoop around to find more intel, as she opens the Mythia to find out that Al is on the other side of the line. Well, it is the follow-up episode that we all needed, as the entire previous episode was all about making you feel despair. With Regulus being blinded by his greed, he is failing to see that Emilia is clearly deceiving him. But I guess that is the blinding part about what the sin is, that is greed. You're blinded by it, just as it felt like we're about to get NTR'd by greed. The story stops short to spare us of something that disgusting. And Emilia starts to figure out what her situation truly entails. And like before, with Emilia and her innocence and her being naive, ignorant, how that could have been something that is a negative for her character and her purity, and it's that purity of her that's being used against her. She is actually more heroic and more self-aware of her situation than what the previous episodes led us to believe, as it seems like Emilia is playing by Regulus's rules just so she can escape and just so she can get enough intel to help Subaru and the others. So the setup in the previous episodes really made us feel like, uh-oh, greed is in total control and Emilia might not be able to do anything about it, but it looks like greed is the sin or a reason of greed, and that is blinding him right now, which will lead to Emilia having that opening of being able to stop one of the Sin Archbishops herself, and maybe saving some of the other wives. This episode of ReZero is all about that relief, regrouping, adding more of that ReZero lore, and introducing some compelling new mysteries. With the dragon blood mixed with Krush and Subaru, we really don't know how it will affect them, but it looks like with Subaru, it looks like a plus. But with Krush, it looks like her being in agony and maybe she's slowly transforming. We don't know how exactly this is going to change Krush, as it could be for better or worse, or it could unlock something cool. We don't really know, but that is a really compelling part about this story. But as it looks, it doesn't make it seem like Krush is gonna turn into some damn fly, a Maju, or a dragon. At least not just yet. The story doesn't give us a sense that that is currently happening right now, especially with Felix right by her side. It just seems like a lot more of this important lore and context is still just waiting in the wings, just like Reinhardt and Otto and all these other characters and situations with Kiritaka is all just waiting in the wings, ready to converge within the story at a very important plot point. The setup in this story is getting really good right now, and we can see it all starting to point to different parts of the story. At the towers, at Emilia's wedding, things are getting really spicy right now. So this episode right here is balancing building that tension within the story and finding the heroic counter to the Sin Archbishop's demands, which at the last episode, it just felt the worst. This seems like it's totally gonna boil down to Emilia's wedding, as it looks unavoidable, but this building resolve, this glimmer of hope that we got at the end of the episode means that the allies, the heroes, are ready to make their counter move. And that cliffhanger is one of the best because now we have a interaction between Emilia and Al. So naturally, Emilia is probably gonna tell Al about everything that she knows and how Al and the others could set up a rescue attempt to save Emilia. So overall, this episode provided a sense of relief with Emilia and her character, that she didn't just become this oblivious character. It almost kind of reminds me of the setup of Subaru in season 1 at the royal selection, where they kind of just thrashed this character to make him the worst version of himself and throwing away all the previous character development and all we know of his character. Gladly, they didn't do anything like that for Emilia, but it was kind of set up for that. While her purity and innocence could be something that could be her weakness, she's clearly have a vision. And most importantly, her heart and bond with Subaru and her allies is still intact, as there is ultimate belief that there is going to be that happy ending that Subaru wants. But the story doesn't always give us the happy of happy endings. There's always gonna be some villains that are gonna win somewhere in between, at least for a brief moment. So Emilia is in a position to help save herself and help Subaru and the others save the entire city of Pristella, and maybe she might help save the wives too. And Subaru's position is not actually that bad, and it's kind of convenient right now that the dragon's blood all is doing is healing Subaru's leg. This episode also helped define Priscilla and Liliana's roles. As everyone else is trying to fight and defeat the Sin Archbishops, Priscilla and Liliana is going around from shelter to shelter to help quell the Wrath Authority from stopping all the NPCs from rioting. And Priscilla herself is very powerful, and that can help protect a lot of these NPC characters. Helping save the people is actually the most important thing right now, and that is what rulers should do: protect the people, because without the NPCs, you can't be a hero. While this episode wasn't as exciting or extremely terrifying like the last, and gave us that ultimate pin drop, heart drop of despair, this episode naturally sets up that relief and that we feel a lot better about the situation. It's a necessary transition into the next big plot point as everyone regroups and sets up for that next big attack against the Archbishops, and hopefully beat the shit out of this greed of NTR. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Episode 6, I would love to know. Do me a favor guys, hit the like button if you hate NTR, and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and check out my blog at otakusen.com. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.